Salam, everybody, once again. This is your epic African journey through history of 800 years of African subjugation and oppression, but also looking at the opportunities that were missed so that we can be able not to repeat the same mistakes that we and our foreparents made. And so we continue to say shukran and asante sana to all those of you who continue to support us, to encourage us, and to journey with us as we continue to enrich the African pot of history. Welcome to this new episode. Last time we began our first chapter and we talked about education, and we were looking from context of the East African University, especially in Dar es Salaam, that is the Dar es Salaam University in Tanzania, and also Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. We touched on very interesting students and how they managed to bring change, especially in the University of Dar es Salaam. A lot of African eminent personalities were students here, and their prowess and their zeal and enthusiasm to change Africa was seen right from the time they were in the university. And we saw also that they became proactive and pragmatic to an extent where they got the president's attention. So we continue from there, and we will start from a very interesting point of view. Our very own Kenyan, who was very young, vibrant, brilliant, who featured in the 1960 Great Walk of the Civil Society. And he also gave a speech. This time he was a very young man in his early 30s, almost the same age with the late Malcolm X and people like Martin Luther King Jr. Rather. So he gave a small speech on behalf of African laborers, because he was a great socialist and a very great labor movement personality. And this is why he gave a speech in the famous I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Tom Mboya is our guy. So Tom Mboya, having gone through his university locally and being exposed in the Americas, he was responsible in doing the first airlift of students, a group of students from Kenya. And one of the famous students who benefited from this program was the father to the 47th president of United States of America, Barack Obama. Barack Obama Sr. was one of the students who benefited from this program. There were other students who went to Russia, but you remember America and Russia were having a Cold War experience, and so they used to install presidents who will favor them, like we had mentioned earlier. And today it still continues. And so the Americans were in favor of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta to continue as the president of Kenya, because his vice president, Jaramogi Odinga, was pro-Russian. And so it was difficult for him to raise to the reins of power with the Americans' interest in the East African region. And so our very young, proud scholar and socialist um, published in presses, and shortly the government of Kenyatta identified him, and he was appointed Minister of Justice. And then him as an African socialist inspired a lot of people, and among them, the people who did great African socialism, and proposed and even supported and wrote extensively about, includes the former president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, and he published on the future democracy in Africa before he became the president. And so other people like my very own philosopher, and whom we shall be using so much in our discourses, Kwame Nkrumah, through his Confucianism. He also was an African socialist, despite the fact that he was overthrown from being the president in 1966. Other people who continue to inspire each other in having exchanges in discourse, and these are scholastic exchanges, was Ali Mazrui. Ali Mazrui, being a lecturer in Makerere, also wrote about Kwame Nkrumah, and his title of this article was Nkrumah, the Leninist. So the Leninist Caesar, because his socialism was akin to that of the Russians, and so this was published in a common depository of that time that was called Tanzaniaphilia. So this was a propaganda machine tool that was used by different people. This inspired again another scholar called Issa Shivji, who became the critic of the same once he realized that African socialism was nothing but an ideology that was wrongly mooted to be a representative of the African societies. So African societies are diverse. You will find nations and ethnic communities that were socialist by nature, and others were capitalist, and so and so on and so forth. Even a mixture of the same. And so people are excited using in university. People get excited using new words and whatever is trending currently in the world of politics and business. But it was the same case. But anyway. He also published in 1970 and in 1976, Issa Shivji, he published The Silent Class Struggle in 1970, and he also published another article called The Class Struggle in Tanzania in 1976. And so socialism was failing, and this was also to the detriment of Mzee Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the founding father of the nation of Tanzania. And so he also did not rule until his death like it was supposed to be, as an honor of founding a country like other founding fathers. And so Makerere continues to de-racialize the teaching body, because this was the main issue in Makerere. It was too much white, and so African lecturers wanted to move into management and administration, and so this was their own struggle, and that's why they were not interested in nationalism like the Tanzanians were. Or the students in Dar es Salaam. And so Ali Mazrui was among the people who climbed that ladder so successfully, and he was able to become a senior lecturer, and he also became a full professor. And so in Dar es Salaam, where nationalism was really taking root and almost giving fruits, um, they reduced the higher education uh, to a place where national politics were discussed. So even international students, I think they were flabbergasted by the fact that the Dar es Salaam University was de-escalating, and so there was a lot of uproar, and these political changes were also driven by foreign students, so that the university can focus on the universal issues. And so in October 1966, there was a decision of expelling all uh, the decision that was to introduce the compulsory national service for all secondary students, so that they can be formed. It was a way of forming them to compromise and to be part of the African socialism. And so Nyerere accused the international students of Dar es Salaam University and the local students of betraying the nationalism. For him, Dar es Salaam University was a pride of his country, and so it had to look at the issues of his country. And any student from abroad who wanted to study there was to come with the aim of learning about how to solve Tanzanians' problems. And so it was a kind of a desperate moment. And there was a conference that was called in 1967 that ought to look at the role of the university in the socialist Tanzania, which it appeared to have recommended the syllabus or the curriculum should be reviewed. They also looked at the discipline, the tradition of discipline, and they wrote against it. So the discipline was supposed to be toned down, and probably only if it were to continue, it should only be for the Tanzanians, because if the university was focusing on the national issues of Tanzania, and those people who go against it are supposed to be disciplined. So why should foreign students and lecturers be disciplined? So it was truly de-escalating. And so the social economic development inspired three key areas. There were three radical camps that proposed different things. The non-Tanzanians wanted a complete transformation of the curriculum and the university administration structure, and they wanted also the university to abolish the discipline-based department. There was a moderate majority, and I think these were Tanzanians. They wanted a radical review of the curriculum, but the discipline department was upheld. And so the final conservative minority group which resisted change at all. And so it was an interesting moment for the Tanzanian University, and a subcommittee of the university was appointed in 1970, and suggested the interdisciplinary was likely to focus in solving problems rather than understanding the method of solving problems. And it took the task uh, of trying to design a curriculum that will be responsible in producing technocrats other than graduates who only had an ideological view of life and development. And so this is when, again, like I said, the Americans were, North Americans were always interested in East Africa. And so since 1945, um, they have always funded programs in the universities and also doing exchange programs that were called the transatlantic exchange programs for students. And so this to me is an interesting moment, and one of the reaction step taken by students was coming up with a socialist magazine, a propaganda machinery by the government called Cheche. And so I think we shall continue from there. And I hope you have been fascinated and enlightened. And so we continue to thank you, continue to ask you to subscribe, like, and comment in our YouTube channel and social media for the betterment and the improvement of these episodes of African Journey. Thank you so much and have a good one. Remember to uphold your African dignity.